was not to last.
I knew it! I knew it! I freaking knew it, bro!
There were complications with the birth.
Of course.
He died 3 days later, on July 14th, 1685.
There's always a
His
complication.
son outlived his mother by just 6 days. Theodore was thrown into despair. His always frail health now began to deteriorate with alarming speed.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not showing it, but that's really dude, that's a really heartbreaking point. That's like heartbreaking to the point where I'm kind of speechless. Здравствуйте, зрители. Hope I pronounced that properly. But continuation of the Romanov Dynasty. I haven't forgotten about this. Of course I'm not gonna forget about it. You think I'm gonna forget my series on Russian history? I would never forget about Russian history because I like Russia too much for that. Absolutely not. Luckily, the last time I was able to figure out how to bypass the copyright issue, fortunately enough.
The year was 1674. In the private theatre of Tsar Alexei, tale of the Byzantine princess Pulcharia was being retold. Long ago, she had been the elder sister of a Byzantine emperor, a 7-year-old boy given to daydreaming. So she ruled in place of her little brother and proved to be wise and fair. The tale delighted its royal audience, but one teenage princess, Sophia, was spellbound. This was her own dream, brought to life on stage.
Bro, why is it always like teenagers? It's always when we first started the series, the first person to take the throne was a teenager in a time of crisis. Why is it always a teenager?
She had no idea where and how far that dream would lead her.
Romanovi.
2 years later, when Tsar Alexei's eldest surviving son took the throne as Fyodor III, the House of Romanov seemed secure and stable. The succession was not in dispute. Alexei himself had named and blessed Fyodor as his successor from his deathbed. There was one thing, though, that worried the people. The young Tsar had to be carried to his coronation in a litter. He could barely walk on his own. As Fyodor ascended the throne, many at court openly hinted that the young Tsar was not long for this world.
Oh yeah,
Fyodor III Alexeyevich.
I remember,
Fyodor
yeah.
had suffered from chronic scurvy since childhood. It led to anemia, a blood disorder that left him profoundly weak. It also caused his limbs to swell. It led to the abnormal development of his bones and cartilage.
Ooh.
Scurvy is caused by an acute deficiency of vitamin C. In the 17th century, it was common during wars or long sea voyages. The first Romanov,
So why the heck does a royal have scurvy?
however, seemed to have had a rare hereditary form of the disease.
Oh no, that too! Talk about unlucky.
Because of his ill health, Fyodor was forced to spend much of his time indoors, unable to take part in games or sport. Instead, he developed an interest in the sciences. His tutor was the philosopher and poet Simeon Polotsky, and Fyodor was extremely well educated for his time. The young Tsar excelled in theology, philosophy, rhetoric, and poetry. He spoke fluent Polish and read Ovid in the original Latin.
He spoke fluent Polish. I would say that's impressive, but considering when you know one Slavic language, other Slavic languages aren't really hard to learn, especially when a Slavic language is your first language. Other Slavic languages aren't really hard to learn. Although I will say Polish is harder to learn than Russian, only because the Polish decided to choose the Latin alphabet, and that they have so much rules of combining words and Hey, honestly, like, I thought the Cyrillic alphabet was scary when I first started, like, teaching myself Russian. But now I realize, like, oh no, the Cyrillic alphabet is actually necessary for, like, a lot of the pronunciation. And since Poland decided to not use the Cyrillic alphabet, they have so much rules in your language that really and truly wouldn't really need to be there to just use the Cyrillic alphabet. That makes the language more hard to learn, quite frankly speaking. But if we just ignore the alphabet on the side and we're talking about just talking to people and whatnot, then yeah, Poland, I don't really think Polish is... I think Polish is just like any other Slavic language, really and truly. I don't know. The thing with Slavic languages is that just the fact that Slavs, diverged relatively late in history, they still have a mutual intelligibility. Yeah, how the hell do I pronounce that word? Mutual intelligibility. Ugh. They can. You know the word I'm trying to pronounce, okay? Mutual intelligibility, or what? You know what I'm saying? Like, they can. Like, I heard that they can still somewhat. They're still mutually intelligible with each other when it comes to communication, somewhat. So that's not really shocking. I mean, hey, when you know 2 languages, that's cool though. But I'm just saying, not as impressive as some of the other monarchs who know like a lot more languages. Well, let's continue. I mean, it's still impressive nonetheless.
Fyodor owned a large music library, sang well, and was a talented composer. But his greatest passion was for horse breeding. When Fyodor was only 3, he was not given a toy horse like most other 3-year-olds, but a real horse, because he was the son of a Tsar.
What, Chad?
The little boy was in awe. For the rest of his life, he would be obsessed with everything to do with horses. Fyodor's parents hoped that riding would improve the prince's health, but instead, their worst nightmare came true. One of his father's friends, boyar noble Artemon Matviev, witnessed the accident.
Oh no.
When he was 13, Fyodor decided to travel to the countryside on sledge along with his aunts and sisters. He was given a hot-tempered horse to pull the sledge, which he mounted. There were so many people in the sledge that the horse couldn't move it. It reared, threw the rider off, and he fell under the sledge. Fyodor Alexeyevich with all its weight and crushed his chest.
Oh my. Oh, he's only 13, dude. And he's only 13, dude. Holy. His bones aren't even like fused because, you know, when you're growing up, you know, your bones you have your bones are more weak because they're not fused yet. So you can't even like take the that's reminds me of a story when I was like a 7-year-old kid and my leg got ran over by a freaking car wheel. Luckily for me, that didn't break my leg because they didn't fully run over my feet because I was screaming so hard that they realized there was like a car reversing. I had just gotten out of the car and freaking I wasn't paying attention. My leg was like, because you're a 7-year-old kid, you're small as hell. So I was still by the door like talking. I forgot who I was talking to, but I was just talking to someone or listening to the conversation. And when the car was reversing back a little bit, it freaking went over my leg for like a good couple seconds. I screamed so hard. And they quickly drove off of that. Nothing did happen. Weirdly enough, nothing did happen. Fortunately for me, nothing did happen because that probably would have messed with my growth development. Thank God. But my brother looked at me because he was there. My oldest brother was there. He was like, "Yeah, had that car reversed just a little bit more for a little bit longer, your leg would have been gone." So, or should I say my feet? Because my feet was the one that was taking the full brunt of that.
Theodore survived, but to add to his woes, he suffered chest and back pain for the rest of his life.
Oh, dude, that's so awful, man.
Theodore was an enthusiastic follower of the latest European trends. He wanted to be a reformer, to sweep away all that was outdated and backward in Russia. And
I swear, a lot of these Russian czars, I've noticed, always try to follow the trends in Europe. Every single Russian czar is like, they always try so hard to follow trends in Europe.
All the latest fashion and innovations from the West. But his illness left him effectively sidelined, a virtual prisoner in his own palace. Control of government fell into the hands of the Tsar's uncle, Ivan Miloslavsky, and his family. His rival, Artemon Mapiev, a brilliant diplomat and sworn enemy of the Miloslavsky clan, was sent into exile.
But he's still able. I mean, he's not immobile, so I don't see why he couldn't run the government. Okay.
Under the young Tsar, power once more lay with the boyar nobles. Miloslavsky dismissed the Department of Secret Affairs and the Department of Accounting, the former.
Planning to move?
He himself took over 2 key government departments, the Great Treasury, which controlled state finance, and the Department of Ambassadors, in charge of foreign policy, as well as other minor departments. Other departments were distributed amongst his friends and relatives, some of whom held up to half a dozen different government posts. In just a few years, the number of government departments increased from 42 to 60. The total number of bureaucrats rose from 882 to 2,762. This new bloated administration was riddled with corrupt and lazy officials, many of whom owed their place to the Miloslavsky family. It was love at first sight.
Here we go again, folks. Here we go.
Sunday, during the celebration of Christ's entry into Jerusalem, a solemn procession bearing icons and a crucifix crossed Red Square and entered the Kremlin Cathedral.
Alright, who is it? Who is it this time?
Amid the crowd, one girl caught the eye of the 18-year-old Tsar. She stood out less for her beauty than for her proud and noble bearing.
Hey, love that. I mean, love that, right? Me personally, I already have trouble with getting women. I've said this plenty of times, but because of this, I don't really tend to look at women for their looks. I mean, I do, but I look at their personalities a lot, right? And one thing that I need, if I get a wife, is definitely like she has to be proud. Has to be proud. Like, I can't do that whole, I'm too weak and I can't like stand up for myself. Like bro, nah, bro. Like, stand your ground, be proud. Which is another reason why I prefer Russian women over like American women. American women are just weak, like way too weak. It's annoyingly weak. It's actually aggravating as hell. So that. Good on you, because most of these dudes, most men, really and truly, most men, they just look at a woman just for her looks and that's it. I mean, women do the same. Women do the same somewhat. I mean, not even somewhat, I'll probably say equally, but maybe, I think men honestly do that whole thing worse. Because really and truly, most women that I usually meet, usually don't really care about me for me. They already care about my personality. They already appreciate the fact that they already appreciate any of my passions or anything like that. They usually just care about me for my looks, right? Just my physical traits and that's it, right? Keep in mind, I'm like 6'3", and 6'3" mixed, takes you a long way. So, really, really and truly, when I see, or at least I respect people, especially men who don't just get caught up with looks, because looks isn't everything. And I know some of you might be looking at me and being like, bro, you're literally wearing a shirt that says I love Russian women. And don't get me wrong, I do. But not for the reason that you think. Guys, literally, I'm not even kidding. Like, every time I would tell people this, oh, I want a Russian, when I'm talking to a guy, the first thing they say is, oh, Russian women are so hot. Like, that's not why I want one. Like, no. And that usually like annoys me and pisses me off, where I can't even like talk to one dude about that, because the first thing they'll just say is, oh, they're so hot, nothing else. They just look at the physical attributes. And this is just a personal thing to me. I mean, I have a whole different channel where I talk about this. Men just need to stop looking at women just only for their physical attributes. It's annoying as hell, right? Now, I never really went into far detail on why I would even want a Russian wife if I choose to get married. I only said once that I would want one, because I need to speak Russian better. But there's a lot more reasons to that. One of the reasons, of course, being that typically they're much more proud and able to stand their ground, much more compared to these annoyingly weak American women who just simply, just think, oh, I just need to look pretty and that's it. Like, nothing wrong with looking pretty. I'm a pretty boy, okay? I keep myself looking good all the time. But, you need to have more than that, right? And, you need to have more of something inside you, not just outside you. So, definitely, I respect the Tsar for that.
The Tsar was captivated. The girl was found. Her name was Agafia Grushetskaya, the daughter of a petty nobleman who now lived with her uncle in Moscow. Theodore instructed the uncle to keep his niece safe and not allow her to marry without his permission. But the Tsar's choice of bride did not suit the Miloslavsky family. They wanted him to marry a girl from their own family, not the daughter of some impoverished provincial noble. 50 years later, the historian Vasily Tatishev investigated the facts and reported. Ivan Miloslavsky slandered Agafia in front of the Tsar, claiming that both she and her mother were known to be guilty of several obscene acts.
Obscene acts like
found
what?
out about this unjust accusation, and when questioned by officials, declared that no one should be in any doubt as to her honor, and swore to it on her life. Reassured by this news, the Tsar decided to pay a secret visit to his chosen one. He took a trip through the hills outside Moscow, so on his way back he could pass by Agafia's house as if by accident. Agafia's relatives told the girl to stand in the window, and for the first time, their eyes met. Fyodor took the first independent decision of his life. The scheming and deceitful Ivan Miloslavsky was dismissed from court. He was no longer welcome in the Tsar's presence.
Oh my goodness, dude. The things that a woman would make a man do is crazy.
To respect tradition, a formal presentation of bridal candidates was arranged for the Tsar, but everyone knew the name of the winner before the contest even began. The Tsar, the candidates, and the organizers. But it was unthinkable to overlook the ancient custom. Fyodor, now 19 and married, was at last recognized as having reached his majority and assumed the full authority of the Tsar. Now, he would take control of his own fate and push forward his own ideas on how Russia should be governed.
Bro, I like this guy. I think this guy's probably gonna be my favorite Tsar just for the fact that he's like one of the few men who didn't just look at a chick and just look at her for her looks and just the way how she looks. Like, I already love this guy just for that. Just for that. Plus, I'm sympathizing with him much more because of his disease and hardship. This guy's literally a veteran difficulty, man. Like, come on.
His first act was to summon all the nobles of the realm, the most senior nobles, the boyars, his advisors, the okolnichi, and the members of the council. They were to meet at 1 o'clock to begin the work of reform, beginning with taxation. To support the Tsar's standing army, a variety of small taxes were replaced with a single new tax. Every household was now expected to pay 90 kopecks per year, the equivalent of 72 kilograms of grain or 26 kilograms of beef. Because of the acute shortage of cash, the Tsar sold the rights to collect this tax to tax farmers, helping to quickly replenish the treasury. By 1680, state revenues totaled more than 1.2 million rubles. Customs and excise duties accounted for 53% of revenue. Direct taxation raised 44%, and other minor taxes accounted for the remainder. Next came a population census. Completed in 1678, it identified 5.6 million people living in Russia, but this only included taxpayers in the heartland regions. If non-taxpayers were added, plus those in new settlements on the fringes of Russia and across Siberia, as well as the Cossacks, the total population was approximately 12 million. This made Russia one of the world's most populated countries, and largest in terms of territory.
That's the thing about Russia. Russia is just... people tend to forget how massive Russia is. It's really sad that, unfortunately, its geography is hampering it. Although with global warming and climate change happening, that will actually benefit Russia more than any other country. Everyone's fighting against global warming. Meanwhile, Russia wants global warming to happen because it will melt so much in hospitable places. But the thing about global warming is, if global warming happens, it'll also affect my country because my country is below sea level and it would go underwater. if the sea level rises due to melting ices. So, that's such a weird paradox.
By the end of the Romanov Dynasty in 1917, this population had grown eightfold to 103 million.
Wow. 103. Why is Russia's population like 150 million? Dude, imagine if Russia didn't have like all those hardships that happened throughout her history. Imagine what Russia's population would have been today. Russia's population just can't catch a break.
Next was boundary reform. Existing boundaries were checked and new ones established, settling disputes over land ownership and fixing the boundaries of private estates, royal estates, and church lands. Next, army reform. Most settled parts of Russia were divided into 9 new military districts. From now on, every regiment was tied to one of these districts, was stationed there, and did its recruiting there. 20 years later, this system would be the basis for even more sweeping reforms by Fyodor's younger brother, Peter the Great. To help fight injustice, the Court of Petitions was reopened. A person of any rank or position could file a complaint to the Chamber of Judgment, and to the Tsar personally. When Fyodor heard that some petitions compared the Tsar to God, he was indignant. He said that it was indecent to write such words, and that if anybody dared to write again in that style, he would not regard their petition with favor.
I love this guy even more. And he puts God above himself, as he should. This guy's probably gonna be my favorite Tsar. This guy's amazing. There's nothing I can hate this guy about. You know what? Really and truly, the reason why he probably has such humility, even though he's the freaking Tsar, if I pronounce that properly, or at least attempt to pronounce it properly, but the reason why he probably has like such good humility, really and truly, is because of his hardship that he went through, and his condition that he went through, and that he's still dealing with, and his chronic pain. Okay? Really and truly, one of the reasons why I respect Russian people so much is because they're usually very humble people with humility. Now, don't get me wrong, I've heard like some Russians can be like very rude and just, I don't know, disrespectful, I guess. That's one way to put it. Met a guy who was from the Soviet Union, but he moved to America before the Soviet Union fell, and he lived in the Soviet-Russian Federation before the whole entire Soviet Union collapsed. And he was like, yeah, Russian people are grumpy, which is true. But overall, Russian people tend to be much more humble and tend to have much more humility. And the reason why that is because of a lot that they have to go through growing up in a place like Russia. I'm not saying that Russia's bad. They have a freaking American-led global world order that is trying to demonize Russia and antagonize Russia constantly, so they're dealing with constant hate because of that. 2, unfortunately, Russia's history. Russia has had some very unfortunate events that has hampered her development, so she's not where she could have been throughout her history, and because of that, things are much more harder for, obviously people in Russia. So, I'm just saying all of this because typically people who tend to go through a lot of, hardships and bad things throughout their lives, they typically tend to develop this very big sense of humbleness and humility. It's kind of like forcing to be mature due to trauma, right? Now let's compare that with Americans who are extremely arrogant. I live in America, and I'm not American, I'm from Barbados, so I can comment on, what I've noticed, right? Compare that to Americans who are extremely full of themselves, very snobby, they don't really have any humbleness, very entitled, they're very sensitive. They're not strong at all. And they're like that because America has, I explained this in one of my different videos. America has just had it on easy mode. Really and truly, America has had it on easy mode. The Native Americans, were mostly dead when America started colonizing. America literally genocide, essentially ethnically cleansed and genocided the rest of the Native Americans pretty much, and to force them off their lands, which nobody seems to talk about. But everyone likes to bash Russia for doing the smallest things. but there was no one to really and truly stop America. The only person that could have done it at that time was Britain, and Britain was too busy focusing on European affairs. Everyone just ignored America, so America just had so much time to develop. It was quite good for Americans, right? Americans never really had it hard throughout their history, right? So yeah, that's why they are the way that they are, really and truly. Hell, I would even go as far as to say, I don't know, this is probably like just a human thing, where it's like, well, I don't know, because there's some people who grew up having it good, getting everything handed to them, and they're still kind of like, they're still good people. But typically, the more hardship you go through, the more humble you tend to be. That typically correlates, and it just so happens that unfortunately, a lot of Russians have been doing it a lot throughout their history, so,
Tsar Fyodor also reformed the penal code and abolished a range of barbaric punishments, including the cutting off of hands, feet, and fingers.
Holy crap,
Prisoners
bro.
who would have received these punishments were now sent to Siberia instead, where they helped to settle and develop the vast empty lands that lay beyond the Ural Mountains.
Yeah, and people tend to overlook this as well about Russia. Russia has been trying so hard to develop Siberia, even now to this very day, it still is trying so hard to develop Siberia. But due to the fact that, again, Siberia has such harsh climate, that's easier said than done. That's easier said than done. Siberia is loaded with so much resources, but it's hard for Russia to tap into those resources because the geography. And I say this because, well, I'm gonna keep the video going. Just keep that in mind, because again, I have a lot to say. Every time I make a video about Russia, I always have a lot to say.
Moscow, a city built of wood, used to be destroyed by fire about once every generation. In the reign of Tsar Fyodor, large parts of the city were rebuilt in stone for the first time. The state treasury offered 10-year interest-free loans to pay for the work. The Tsar would personally visit the site of fires to see the loans issued. Most of these medieval mortgages were never repaid, but they helped to build 10,000 new houses, creating a new city of stone. Finally, the system of precedence, by which the boyar nobles could inherit government posts by virtue of rank alone, was abolished. From now on, appointments would be based on merit and the Tsar's judgment. Those, as it was put, whom the great sovereign indicates. The Tsar solemnly burned the great books of rank, which catalogued the pedigree and precedence of all Russia's noble families, in a great bonfire in the courtyard of his palace. The Tsar had ushered in a new age, in which good government took precedence over the boyar's ancient privileges.
Speaking of books being burned, I heard that, I don't know how true this is to be honest, but I heard that Tsars destroyed. It's like freaking 2 a.m., 1 a.m. recording this, so I'm kind of sleepy. But I heard that the Russian Empire used to ban Ukrainian books and destroy Ukrainian books to try and basically remove any sense of Ukrainian identity. Now, I heard this from Ukrainian people, and I usually don't really believe anything that Ukrainian people say because I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say that. I was gonna say something in Russian about them, but whatever. But they usually tend to be not the brightest of people. Like what one friend of mine said, we were talking about them. Ukrainian and smart does not go in the same sentence. So, but I did hear something about that. I don't know how true it is though. I never really bothered looking into it, really and truly. So just pointing that out. They're just talking about books being burnt.
Tsar Fyodor was a man in a hurry. He introduced Polish fashion at court. Some courtiers even began to shave their beards. He encouraged the founding of Russia's first university based on European lines. He built a fortress at Izium to guard the southern border against Tatar raids, and opened the first state almshouses in Russian history. He began work on reforming the courts. Sometimes it seemed his illness had deserted him.
Yeah,
but it never.
Yeah, I was wondering, where's his illness?
Entirely left him. Fyodor knew it was a race against time, and there was much work to be done.
Oh, dude, that's so sad.
Against the Ottoman Turks and Crimean Tatars proved costly. It was a conflict that might have been avoided with the help of Ataman Matveyev, the Tsar's most experienced diplomat, but for now, he remained in exile. In 1677, a 100,000-strong Crimean Turkish army invaded Ukraine. It was met by a Russian-Ukrainian army with a strength of 57,000 men. Despite being outnumbered almost 2 to 1, they managed to repel the Turkish invader. The following...
Why would he say Russian-Ukrainian army? Why would he say Russian-Ukrainian army? There's no Ukraine. There's no Ukraine. Definitely not. There's no Ukraine at this time. Why would he say Ukraine? What? There's sure as hell no sense of Ukrainian identity at this point. I mean, all Ukraine literally just meant was frontier or just borderland. I don't know why he would say Russian-Ukrainian army. I mean, you could just say Russian Cossack army. I don't know, bro. Whatever, dude. Whatever. Let's continue.
Here, a Turkish army 200,000 strong was defeated by a Russian army of 120,000. But Russian generals were unable to capitalize on these victories. In 1681, the Treaty of Bakhchisarai was signed between Russia, the Ottoman Empire, and Crimean Khanate. Eastern Ukraine and the city of Kiev remained in Russian hands. The Dnieper River became the new border with the Ottomans, while a buffer zone was created between the Dnieper and Bug River. The war had exhausted the Tsar, but with peace, his health began to improve. What's more, his beloved queen, his Tsaritsa, was pregnant with their first child. The baby was expected that summer.
I feel like some bad news is gonna happen.
But their happiness was not to last.
I knew it! I freaking knew it, bro!
There were complications with the birth.
Of course!
He died 3 days later, on July 14th, 1681.
There's always a complication.
His son outlived his mother by just 6 days. Fyodor was thrown into despair. His always frail health now began to deteriorate with alarming speed.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm not showing it, but That's really dude, that's really heartbreaking. Like that's like heartbreaking to the point where I'm kind of speechless.
Theodore knew he needed an heir to ensure a peaceful succession when the time came, and 7 months later, he married again. This time his brother.
Oh my gosh, dude. It's even more sad because he chose her based on genuine reasons, not for like political or oh she's beautiful or oh she's hot or whatever. Oh that's so sad. That's really sad, dude.
It was a 14-year-old girl named Martha Apraxina.
Oh hell no.
Theodore did not even have the strength to stand during the wedding ceremony. Just 10 weeks later, he was dead at the age of 20.
Wow.
His final decline was so rapid, he didn't have time to leave instructions about his succession.
Hey, bro, Theodore. At least Theodore is in heaven. Definitely in heaven, because he put God over himself first. Theodore's in heaven. Hey, you know something, right? Here's the thing, though. The Bible does say that good people die early. Good people die early. Theodore genuinely seemed like he was a good man. He really did seem like he was a good man. So, really and truly, because I'm a Christian, if you do go by what the Bible says, good people die early, and bad people tend to live longer and get what they want. Mostly because God is just giving them a chance to realize their wrongdoings before he finally, brings them back and, judge them, of course. So, maybe it's not as heartbreaking as it seemed. Maybe, yeah, now that I think about it, I don't really think this is heartbreaking. I think this is just God just taking a good person that just didn't need to be on earth anymore. Because really and truly, at the end of the day, and I don't really care if you're not a Christian, I really don't care. We're just here as a test. That's all we're here on earth for. That's it. We're just here to see if we're good people or not, in a nutshell, right? Now, unfortunately, I heard that Russia, or at least Gen Z Russians anyways, tend to not be as religious anymore, which is kind of But that's a thing that's happening with a lot of places in Gen Z generation. So, honestly, yeah, I hope he reunited with his Tsaritsa in heaven. Really and truly. Because when we're in heaven, we're going to have new bodies and new names. But then again, we're still, when we die before Judgment Day, we're just sleeping. So, all the people who are dead right now are literally just more or less asleep until Judgment Day.
Theodore had the potential to become Russia's first enlightened monarch, to lead Russia into the main current of European civilization. He had everything that was required: education, determination, character, everything, except health.
At least he was right with God.
Theodore III ruled Russia for just 5 years, but in that time he created the basis for one of the strongest armies in the world, introduced a system of social welfare, reduced taxation, expanded the borders of his realm, transformed Moscow from a city of wood into a city of stone, and laid the foundations of a secular system of education. He approved the foundation of Russia's first university, but died before he could sign the charter. Theodore's death paved the way for a power struggle between two boyar families: Miloslavskis, relatives of Tsar Alexei's first wife, late Tsaritsa Maria, and the Narushkins, the family of Alexei's second wife, Natalia. Miloslavski's candidate for Tsar was Maria's son, Prince Ivan, a 15-year-old boy, half-blind and disabled.
Oh my gosh, no.
supported Natalia's son, Peter, healthy and clever, but only 10 years old. An hour after Theodore's death, the Boyars' Council, with the support of Patriarch Joachim, declared Prince Peter to be the new Tsar of Russia. His mother's family, the Narushkins, seemed to have won the day. For those at court, it meant one boyar family was out and another was in. But for one person, it spelled the ruin of all their dreams. Chapter 2. Sofia Alexeyevna. Sofia Alexeyevna aspired to what most young women aspire to: freedom, happiness, love. But her fate was not that of any ordinary woman.
What any young woman aspires to: freedom and love. That's the way to put it. Happiness. You want my honest opinion? I mean, maybe women back then were different, who knows? But at least women today, and this is why I said I don't even know if I'm getting married or not. Women today don't even care about love. They don't even care about love. All they care about is fitting in with their little girl group or whatever, and just flexing, and a lot of them are just straight up materialistic nowadays. It's just appalling. They don't even care about love. Love. Yeah, love. Okay. Dude, that's literally why I've been single for so long. Like, it's like every single chick I met is the same. So you can quote what I say. You can quote what I say, dude. Even I know it's the same too with a lot of Russian women and women from Eastern Europe. I hear some of the Eastern European men saying the same thing. The way how they describe women over there, it's like, oh, it's the same over here too. somewhat. Not like the whole the whole being materialistic, not really caring about love anymore, and just trying to flex, just flex to their other girlfriends. Like, I don't know why they care so much about that. Like, why? Why do you care so much about that? Oh my gosh, I need to flex my fur coat. Oh my gosh, I need to flex my car. Like, bro, nobody cares. Like, genuinely speaking. Ugh. But whatever. I know what's funny is if you're a guy and you like point this out, people will call you sexist. Like, no, I'm not sexist, dude. It's just something that I've noticed with dealing with a lot of women. Dude, it's so bad that I don't even bother with most women anymore. I don't even bother with most women. I literally kind of just, I stay so far away from women, bro. Like, I just look at people and I just tell people, oh yeah, if I don't get a Russian wife, I'm just gonna die alone. I mean what I say. So, like, I got a comment the other day, bro. Not the other day, but like a month ago when I posted on my Russia reaction. Someone was like, oh, you're too naive for a Russian girl. I'm not naive about anything. I am not naive about anything, bro. I know exactly what they're like. And they're very similar to other women. Really, actually, all women are the same. really and truly. Just all men act the same too. All men very much act the same too. But in this case, I'm a guy and we're talking about women here. So all men act the same, all women act the same. Or they share similar traits. That's very noticeable. Just bringing this up because I find this to be the way how he says like women want freedom, love, and you know what he just said. I beg to differ. I think it's more like all these modern women want to do. I'm not one of those like red pill dudes who I hate the red pill. I don't subscribe to any of that. This is just what I've seen because like I said, I don't have trouble with attracting women, really and truly. And you know, it's like that's how they are. They just care about fitting in, friends, materialistic things, all that. They don't even care about love anymore. Oh well.
She was a Russian princess, daughter of Tsar Alexei, sister of the late Fyodor. In 1682, 9 princesses lived in the Tsar's palace. They were Anna, Tatiana, Eudokia, Martha, Sophia, Yekaterina, Maria, Theodosia, and Natalia. None were permitted to marry. No Russian man was of sufficient rank, and foreigners did not share their Orthodox faith. Princesses spent their lives in their chambers, in strict isolation from outsiders. They only left the palace for church or other important ceremonies. In their carriages, they sat behind closed curtains, and if they went anywhere on foot, they were shielded from public gaze by drapes held up by their attendants. Their only amusements were the swings at the palace park in summer, sledging in winter, and performances by the court musicians. Their lives were devoted to family, worship, and decorum.
Yeah, see, again, when I say what I say, I wasn't talking about these women back then. Because let me tell you something, women back then were so much different from women now, right? Unfortunately, times have changed for the worse. But yeah, women back then were so much more different than what they are now. So, you know, it's like, yeah, I get this. It's like, hell, that sounds depressing as hell, you know? Definitely. You're the one who's, you know, find freedom and all that stuff that you just described, but now, yeah, that's not really the case. I don't think I'm going off sidetrack. I'm not going sidetracked. Absolutely not. Just pointing that out because of what he said. He said any young girl would want freedom, love, and all the other stuff that he said. I'm like, yeah, let's not give people the wrong idea. Okay, I'm just saying.
Princesses finished their education at the age of 10. They were taught to read and write, arithmetic, and theology.
I'm not gonna lie, these are some
begged her father to continue studying alongside her brother Fyodor. Their teacher, Simeon Palotsky, remembered her as curious and clever, and that she studied philosophy, theology, rhetoric, Polish, and Latin. She read widely, and even wrote her own plays.
Well, at least she's smart.
Sophia's heroine was Pulcheria, a 5th century Byzantine princess who ruled as regent for her younger brother. It was what Sophia dreamed for herself. Her brother, Tsar Fyodor, had occasionally listened to her advice, but no more. His death gave Sophia a long-awaited chance. Sophia was counting on her disabled brother Ivan becoming Tsar.
Oh my God.
She could become the Russian Pulcheria and rule for him as regent. But the Narushkins were about to thwart this plan by placing Peter, not Ivan, on the throne. So Sophia decided to intervene. Her plan centered on the Streltsy, musketeer units that were the core of the Russian standing army. There were 26 regiments, 22,500 men stationed in Moscow. Their privileges included not having to pay taxes and being allowed to carry out private business when not on active service. A private soldier was paid between 3 and 5 rubles a month, equivalent to between $600 and $1,000 today.
Oh, that's in what the hell? What the hell?
An officer was paid 4 times as much, between 15 to 20 rubles a month.
Holy hell!
A colonel made between 30 and 60 rubles.
Holy hell, man!
Not unscrupulous, colonels dipped into their soldiers' wages to augment their own pay.
Oh.
Streltsy wages were paid irregularly and late. Officers not only skimmed off some of their soldiers' pay, they sometimes made them work like serfs on their own estates. Streltsy had been pushed to breaking point. A situation Princess Sophia planned to use to her advantage.
Let her cook.
Meanwhile, the Narushkin's most able supporter, Artemon Matveyev, had just returned to Moscow from exile. This news persuaded Sophia to act without delay. Her supporters told the Streltsy that the Narushkins had poisoned Tsar Fyodor and strangled his son, Prince Ivan. At the insistence of Patriarch Joachim, Princes Ivan and Peter, both perfectly well, were shown to the public. But the Streltsy were out for blood. They broke into the palace, looking for the Narushkins and their supporters. Prince Ivan hid in a corner, while Prince Peter clung to Artemon Matveyev. The Streltsy pushed the young prince aside and dragged Matveyev away.
What the hell?
Servant of the Patriarch witnessed the revolt and later described the scene. Artemon Matveyev was hacked to pieces. Boyar Yuri Dolgorukov was dragged behind the gates and stabbed to death.
Oh!
Next day, his body was also cut into pieces.
Oh!
They ransacked the treasury and entered the Tsar's chambers with weapons, looking for boyar nobles to kill. They smashed down a door to the Patriarch's chambers and threw his steward from the window. He hanged from the
Sorry, that's funny.
the rope.
That's funny. I don't know why, especially when they showed the coming out the window. That's funny as hell. I should not have laughed at that, but that for some reason that was
Streltsy
just.
revolt traumatized young Peter. He would neither forget nor forgive.
Oh, I know. Oh yeah.
The massacre lasted for 3
They're
days.
late.
The victims included prominent Narushkin supporters, including 2 of Prince Peter's uncles, 2 government ministers, the Tsar's personal doctor, and about 100 others. May 19th, the Streltsy demanded outstanding wages totaling 240,000 rubles. On May 23rd, they presented a new ultimatum. The 2 princes, Ivan and Peter, should sit on the throne together. Finally, on May 29th, they made their final demand. Princess Sophia was to become regent until Peter was of age. Russia had its Princess Pulcheria. Sophia was playing with fire. Just 6 weeks before, Peter had been proclaimed Tsar, and the Streltsy had sworn allegiance to him. Now they had butchered his close relatives and handed power to her. The princess had used armed men to clear her path to power. She wasn't the last to do so in Russia, but she went down in history as the first. The new princess regent realized her position was extremely precarious and moved quickly to shore up her support. First, she ordered the payment of all outstanding debts to the Streltsy, even melting down some of the Tsar's silverware to meet the cost. Then Sophia gave all the key posts to her allies. The ambassador's department, which handled foreign affairs, was given to her favorite Count Vasily Golitsyn. Streltsy, lighter cavalry and great treasury departments, effectively control of the army as well as state finances, were given to Count Ivan Khovansky, nicknamed the Windbag. Kovansky, a veteran general and favorite of the Streltsy, soon realized that his new position gave him almost unlimited power, a temptation he could not resist. So began the Kovanchina, a bloody summer of 1682, when power in Moscow resided with Kovansky and his Streltsy troops. The Russian capital had been occupied by its own army. Princess Sophia had unleashed a dangerous power struggle that threatened to topple Russia into anarchy. Thankfully, the Streltsy were not the only military force in Russia. Now, she would turn to the nobles. On the day of the Feast of the Transfiguration, Princess Regent Sophia left the Kremlin under the guise of visiting the Donskoy Monastery, just across the Moscow River. But instead, she left the city and made for the monastery of Trinity St. Sergius, where she planned to take refuge. From the safety of the monastery, Sophia sent letters across the land, condemning this new Streltsy revolt and summoning all loyal nobles to her aid. By the end of the 17th century, the nobleman's army, or militia, totaled 14,500 men. This amounted to 10% of the army. These men had received their lands in exchange for military service. Each year, they were expected to turn out for review mounted on their own horse, equipped with their own arms, and accompanied by several armed serfs. They were obligated to join the army on campaign whenever required. The main part of the army, 77,000 men, or 50%, the so-called regiments of the New Order. These were Reiter, Dragoon, and Hussar cavalry units, made up mostly of foreign mercenaries. The troops now in revolt, the Streltsy Musketeers, made up 35% of the army.
Oof. 35?
Time was running out for Kovansky. His arrogant behavior had made him many powerful enemies.
Bro, what is going on?
Princess Regent's agents caught him in a tavern and brought him to their mistress outside Moscow. He was pushed to his knees before the Princess Regent, read his crimes of treason and mutiny, and beheaded.
Bro.
His position as head of the Streltsy department would go to Fyodor Shaklovity, Sophia's new favorite. The Streltsy revolt was over. The Princess Regent returned to Moscow and took residence in the Kremlin with Tsar Ivan, while Peter, regarded as the junior Tsar, moved to the palace of Preobrazhenskaya. The village of Preobrazhenskaya covered an area of 22 desiatinas, or 24 hectares. A wooden palace had been built there 20 years earlier and was the furthest royal residence from the Kremlin. Moscow's foreign quarter lay between the Kremlin and the palace. At Preobrazhenskaya, the young Tsar Peter devoted himself to war games, forming the local boys into so-called toy regiments.
Toy regiment. I heard that. I'm not sure how true this is. Never really took it with a grain of salt, but I saw somewhere where they're like, oh, in Russia they teach kids, like, I saw a kid with a freaking toy gun. And I was like, oh, in Russia they teach kids how to, like, use guns or something at an early age. Something like that, I don't know. I didn't really pay much mind to it, but because I didn't know, I was like, I'm not sure if I should believe that or not. But it reminds me of that. If that is true though, do tell me. I would like to know.
They would one day grow up to become the famous Preobrazhensky Guards Regiment. Balance was achieved with Tsar Peter and his mother living at their country palace, and Sophia and Tsar Ivan living in the Kremlin. A double throne was made for the joint rulers with a small window at the back. During audiences with foreign ambassadors, advisors whispered to the young Tsars through the window, telling them what to say. Peter was clever but still young, while it was much harder for his half-brother Ivan. Like many of the children from Tsar Alexei's first marriage, Ivan suffered from poor health, possibly linked to scurvy, leaving him weak and lethargic. He also had some form of intellectual disability and was almost blind. These severe health issues left him with little enthusiasm or interest in governing the state. So
oh my gosh, dude. Oh, dude. That's so...
Princess Regent Sophia ruled with the help of her favorite and lover, Vasily Golitsyn, who now bore the grand title Guardian of the Tsar's Great Seal and the state's great ambassadorial affairs. With Sophia's backing, Golitsyn worked out a breathtaking program of reform that was 150 years ahead of its time. Its starting point was the abolition of serfdom. But such radical ideas were impossible to realize at that time. Any attempt to free the serfs would have triggered a wholesale revolt of the nobles.
Reminds me of how when Britain had slaves, and Britain wanted to abolish slavery because most of the British population were absolutely did not stand for it. The ruling elite planter class had to be paid off. Which is so just shaking my head, dude. Money, the root of all evil. I wonder why the Russian Empire just didn't have done that instead. Just pay off the ruling elites for their, serf abolition. Like what the British Empire would eventually just do to just make them abolish chattel slavery anyways.
Contemporaries called Vasily Golitsyn the Great. He favored Western-style reforms, spoke 5 languages fluently.
No, that is impressive. That is impressive. That is impressive. That's impressive. 5 languages fluently. That's impressive. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. Dude, I respect anyone who knows more than who's able to learn a language to the point fluently more than one language to the point. I'm tired as hell. Yahoo style. But I respect anyone who can teach himself more than one language, or at least learn it to fluency and still be able to speak that, bro. Because my goodness, dude. Like with me in Russian, it's like, I talked about this before. Like, it's not as hard as people say, but you need to constantly be like learning words, learning vocab, reading to keep your brain in that mode of I don't know how to like describe it. Like keep your brain like in it, because just the moment you stop, your brain just starts forgetting. You got to make your brain just constantly keep exposure to it, right? And like I said before, every single day, I literally study Russian. Like for hours. I'm not even kidding. For hours. I'm not even kidding. And I'm starting to I'm trying to devote even more time because I'm like, okay, right now I'm probably upper beginner level. But right now, I'm not like satisfied with my progress. I'm like, okay, yeah, now I need to devote more time. And I realized actually the main reason why I really can't speak it is because I don't know enough verbs. So I was gonna go and soon enough start learning verbs. So overall, it's like, yeah, I started taking it seriously. When did I start taking like my Russian learning seriously? I think like 6 months ago. Technically, I started in 2023. But again, keep in mind, I'm just teaching myself. I'm literally teaching myself, no help whatsoever. Don't have no one to speak to, right? Surrounded by English people constantly. Unfortunately, don't have a Russian wife, don't have a Russian girlfriend, don't have any Russian friends. So, I can't even at least practice, through that. So I'm really, but even then, I'm a very persevering person. I don't really let that stop me. I'm still trying. And, I'm like, yeah, no, by the end of this year, I need to be able to, like, even if it's not as good, right? Like, even if I have a thick accent, which is not really a problem. That's the thing. Due to the fact that I grew up in Barbados and I left Barbados when I was 10 years old, and I came to America, I grew up, like, I have multiple accents, right? And so it's not hard for me to develop another accent if I just go somewhere or if I'm around a certain group of people enough. Like, my brain, I guess my brain is programmed to my brain can pick it up really quickly. I'm not really worried about the fact that my accent is Russian. Whenever I speak Russian, it's noticeable. I mean, whenever I speak English, my accent fluctuates insanely. it's crazy. I've had a lot, every time I'm talking to someone, they're always like, what the hell? Like, what are you? Like, why is your accent like fluctuating so much? I'm like, that's just how it is. That's actually quite normal for some people who grew up in 2 different places, like, and they like move from one place to another. That's actually quite normal. Like, your accent would just fluctuate because, that's just how their brain just was hardwired due to the fact that they shifted places at such a young age. So if I go around, like, let's say for example, if I go to Russia for like a good couple months, I probably would be able to pick up a decent Russian accent, just make me speak Russian better. But it's like, yeah, bro, like a lot of my day is just devoted to just Russian learning. Not even kidding. Blood, sweat, and tears. I even gave myself a scar. You probably can't see it because it healed, but if you were watching my videos for a while and you were looking at my thumbnail, you can still see it if you scroll through my channel, and you pay very close attention, you'll see that I had like a slash on my head. A scar on my head. And that was actually funny enough. That was because I was trying to, one day, I was trying to talk to myself in Russian when I was, doing my Russian learning. I was actually sitting here with my table, and I was like slouching. And I was trying to think to myself in Russian, trying to talk to myself in Russion. And I was actually doing this, like what you're seeing here. Swinging my chair back and forth, but I was slouching close to the table, trying to think and talk to myself in Russian. And I swung too hard because I was so distracted, and I didn't realize how close I was to the table because I was so distracted with trying to grasp like sentences in Russian that I literally hit my head like so freaking hard on the table, and my head was swollen, really swollen, because of that. So yeah, left me with a scar. The scar is mostly healed, but yeah, if you've been watching me for a while, you check out my thumbnails, you'll see that big slash because I literally like slashed my head. So yeah, dude, I'm like, I am actually genuinely like really putting effort into trying to grasp the Russian language, like to the point where I am literally hurting myself, my pretty face, over that. So and that's the thing, bro. It's like, bro, when I got that scar on my forehead, I was like, yeah, no. I'm like, there's no way. I can't give up. Like, I cannot give up. I can't even give up. I'm like, no freaking way. Imagine I give up. I literally scar myself and I'm like, no, I have to learn this language now. There's no freaking way I can't give up now. So, but yeah, I'm just saying all that because it's like, dude, if you can speak more than one language, I'm not talking about those people whose parents freaking taught them how to speak, a language. I'm talking people who actually learn, more than one language. That's genuinely impressive. Okay, like, I respect those type of people. Okay, all right, let me stop rambling. So let's continue.
And had a great breadth of knowledge. What's more, he was said to be the most handsome man in Moscow.
No wonder why she was screwing him. No wonder why she was screwing him. Or how are you the most handsome man in Moscow? You're banging someone that looks like that. Come on, man, have some standards. Have some standards now, okay? You're in a place like Russia and you're deciding to. This is what you choose. Have some standards, bro. Have some standards, man. Sorry, but I have to keep things real here.
Sophia was completely in love with him and wrote to him almost every day.
Now, of course, he's the most handsome man in Moscow. Oh my goodness. And let me say something here. A lot of people have this idea. A lot of men have this idea. Because the other day I watched this video where a man was saying, "Oh, don't date Russian women. Avoid Russian women. They're so nasty and they're this and they're that." Basically just bashing a whole bunch of Russian women because his personal experience with Russian women wasn't good, right? They're like, "Oh, all they care about is money. They'll just use it for the money." Blah 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 blah. Okay. I want every man to listen to what I'm about to say. If you're a man, listen to what I'm about to say. And I actually said this before. It's partially one of my other Russian videos. When you're the right guy, and this applies to all women, when you're the right guy, anyone will go above and beyond for you. When you're the right guy. I've noticed that a lot of men tend to, how do I put this lightly? A lot of men tend to not know their place, right? So I will see all these men who will say all these things about these women, and you're probably gonna be saying, "Oh, but weren't you just saying, oh, how women are this and that?" I'm different. I'm gonna explain why in a second. The men who say all these things, "Oh, these women only care about money, they'll just use you and then divorce you," like that video that I was watching with Russian women the other day, where they were like, "Oh, always avoid Russian women," and I even saw Russian men agreeing with him, saying that, "Oh yeah, all Russian women care about is just leaving Russia, blah 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 blah. They just want a foreign man, blah 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 blah." There's some truth to that. There's some women that are like that. I'm not saying not. But the thing is every woman has a guy. Every single woman. This is why I say every man needs to sit down and listen. Every woman has a guy where she will, like, just drop everything for her. She'll go above and beyond for her. Like, she wouldn't do any of that. How do I know this? Because I've had women do this to me. I've had women do this. I've had women give me free things. I've had women go above and beyond, doing things for me, where I'm like, why the hell are you doing this for me? Like, I'm just a normal dude. Why are you doing this for me? And I know my value. I know my value very much. Okay? Like I said, I'm 6'3", tall mixed skin. I'm not even at my peak. I'm not not really planning to go near my peak until I go and visit Russia. Why? Because gotta look pretty for all the Russian women, of course. Really and truly. Keeping it real. So, whenever I hear this stuff about all these women are like this, that, and next, especially like Russian women are realistic. Russian women are very realistic. And they're just straightforward, really and truly. Bro, if you're ugly, and most women know this too, most women subconsciously know that most men, really and truly, only care about, just banging. Let's be real here, folks. Most men only care about that. Most men only care about sex. So what most women will do is they'll take advantage of that. They'll lead the guy who's chopped, who's ugly, who's not attractive. And that's his fault. I don't even blame women for that. I blame men for that. Because men are the ones who put themselves. Because guys, when I watched that video the other day of that man who was saying, oh, Russian women are so terrible, my personal experience with them was so awful, they demand this, they demand money, blah, 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 blah. He was ugly. There's no other way, but he was ugly. And I looked at this and I was like, what do you expect? Like, first of all, you're probably just one of those guys who probably just thought that, oh, I could just go get some hot Russian chick and just not care about her, only for her looks. Because a lot of men just do that. Like, all these men were complaining about women. And this is why I say I'm different. Because I even have plenty of women tell me this, like, I don't have problems with getting women. This is why I say I'm different. Hey guys, if I wanted to, I could be a man whore. I choose not to be a man whore. Why? Gotta keep myself fresh for all my Russian queens. Keeping it real here, folks. Keeping it real. I tell everyone this. I'm like, don't want to kiss anyone yet because I want to, I would be more proud to give that away to a Russian, just not any random American chick. Because again, that part of that is because I like Russia. I like Russian people, I respect Russian people, and I like Russia. That is part of that. That's a byproduct of that. I've had pretty girls where I don't like their country, so I don't like them. Not even kidding. Polish people. I say this to Polish people. Polish women are gorgeous, but I don't like Polish people. It's not that I don't like them, I just find Polish people to be snobby. And I don't like how Poland tries to portray itself as this victim throughout history, when in reality, Poland was an aggressive state. So it's like, yeah, I can't really, cool, you have gorgeous women, but due to the fact that I don't agree with some of the things of your country, I can't really, fiddle with you. It is what it is. But all I'm saying is, and a lot of men just cannot fathom this reality, I come to realize this, is, guys, every girl has a guy, has one guy. Every single woman has that one guy she will drop everything for. Every single girl. She could be talking to him right now. It could just be a fan girl. Every single girl has that one guy, right, that they'll drop everything for. I'm saying this because, do you see how, the Tsaritsa here, what he says is madly in love with ultra giga Russian Chad? That's how women truly are when they actually have a man that they want. I'm saying this is because even the materialistic women, they also have that guy that they want to have. But most women don't usually get with the men that they want, really and truly. So usually what happens is some ugly guy will come, and like I said before, women subconsciously know that men only care about sex and they already care about them. So what do? Oh, well, he's ugly. So he gotta compensate by, money. It is what it is. It is what it is. It just blows my mind how most men just can't fathom that logic. Most men just cannot fathom that logic. Women will literally give a man that they truly like any and every. They'll literally give them the whole world. I've literally had women do that for me. Not even kidding. I actually had at my old job, I literally had a girl. She's actually Russian, actually, but she was adopted from Russia and she moved to America. Fortunately, I lost my job before I could have done anything. I just assumed that she was American, so I didn't really pay her any mind. I was like, oh, no, I don't pay American girls any mind. But then one day she was trying to talk to me and blah blah blah, and she's like, oh, I'm adopted from Russia. I'm like, oh, wait, you are? And that's when my interest was picking through the roof. Bro, this girl was literally giving me free stuff. She would literally give me money, snacks, all of that. She was literally spoiling me. But again, I lost that job, unfortunately. And all my friends were like, bro, just dude, you want a Russian girl so much, just she might not know Russian, but just for the time being, just go get her, right? Go get her. She'll probably spoil you, but I lost that job, so sad. So some other Russian chick, I'm open to some other Russian chick out there, probably in Russia. So just stay with me here, okay? Everything that I say correlates with this video. And honestly, a lot of men need to hear that. A lot of men need to hear that, really and truly. What I just said, a lot of men need to hear that, honestly. So if you're a guy and you listen to that whole dialogue that I just said, just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind.
In her letters, she told him how she prayed for his good health and urged him not to exhaust himself with endless work. Her gratitude, she wrote, was impossible to express. Without him, none of her achievements would have been possible. Yeltsin urged Sophia to continue her brother Fyodor's reforms, but she never fully grasped the need for such changes. What's more, she faced stubborn opposition from the boyar nobles. Nevertheless, it was Sophia who opened Russia's first institute of higher education, the Slavonic Greek Latin Academy, based on the institute founded by Fyodor. Its first professors were two Greek brothers, both of them renowned scholars. A degree took 12 years. The main disciplines were Greek, Latin, grammar, rhetoric, philosophy, and theology. The academy was situated in the buildings of the Zaykano-Spassky Monastery. Today, it is the site of the Russian State University for the Humanities. The academy later spawned the Lomonosov Moscow State University.
Oh, so that's what that building is.
Sciences, and the Moscow Theological Academy. In 1686, negotiations began with Russia's western neighbor, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Yeltsin led a series of long and grueling discussions, which eventually led to the signing of a treaty of eternal peace in Moscow. This bound the kingdoms of Princess Regent Sophia and King Yan Sobieski in alliance, and was to prove the crowning achievement of Russian foreign policy in the 17th century. Russia's gains included the regions around Smolensk and Chernigov, as well as parts of eastern Ukraine, and the cities of Zaporozhye and
Eating in, we're done.
the Treaty of Eternal Peace contained one additional clause. Russia was to join the Holy League, a military alliance against the Turkish Ottoman Empire. This obliged Russia to go to war against the Crimean Khanate, an Ottoman ally. But Golitsyn was not in favor of war and wanted to delay as long as possible. Despite his misgivings, Sophia placed Golitsyn in charge of the army for the forthcoming campaign. She dreamed of great victories that would unite Russia behind her and cover her beloved Golitsyn in glory. No sooner had he left for the front than Sophia began to write to him. In her letters, she called Golitsyn by his pet name, Vashenka, and worried endlessly about his safety. It was only when she embraced him with her own arms, she wrote, that she would know peace again.
Golly, man. She really was all over this man. Oh, and you wanna know what's funny is most men would genuinely never experience that.
In May 1687, a 100,000-strong Russian army joined forces with Don and Zaporozhye Cossacks and advanced towards the Isthmus of Perekop. They found the fields had all been burnt, leaving no food for the horses. Some said it was the Cossacks, not the enemy, who burnt the land, in fear of Russia's growing power. The campaign was cut short. The next year, an even bigger Russian army advanced south. The war's only battle was fought on May 15th, after which the Tatars retreated and the Russians advanced to Perekop. When the news reached Sophia in Moscow, she was ecstatic. Her letters back to Golitsyn overflowed with love and adulation, and longing for the day they would be reunited.
Bro, she really missed that D. Oh my goodness, you really missed that D, bro. Like, damn, bro, was he really that good in bed, bro? Keeping it real, man. Keeping it real, for real. Oh my goodness. You know what's funny? Going back to when they say most men would only look at a woman just for her physical traits, because all they really care about is bang bang. Women want that more than men. Women want that way more than men, but most men would never be able to understand that. And I know that because of my personal experience with them. Like, if you're a guy who takes care of himself, doesn't have trouble, who's just like me, doesn't have trouble with attracting women, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not even surprised that she's acting like this. This is how a woman genuinely acts, or when she's with a man that she genuinely likes. So I'm not even surprised by any of this.
Golitsyn, however, could advance no further. In fact, he was already on his way back to Moscow. The scorched earth tactics of his enemy had starved his army of food and water, leading to the loss of half his men, even though there had been no major battles. The campaign was,
Holy hell,
in fact,
bro.
a complete disaster.
Oh my goodness.
Golitsyn's role in this catastrophic defeat would not be forgotten.
I knew this was too good to be true, too.
When he was sent into exile, one of the main charges against him would be his ruinous handling of the Crimean campaign.
I knew that did not have a good ending. I knew that was two sunshine and rainbows.
On the eve of the debacle, he suffered the worst blow of all, the betrayal of his beloved. While Golitsyn was away fighting, Sophia had fallen for another man.
Of course.
Cynical and scheming Fyodor Shaklovity. To flatter
I'm not even surprised.
Sophia, he had brought the famous Ukrainian artist Alexander Tarasevich to Moscow to paint her portrait. He depicted the princess wearing a regal crown, scepter in hand, and behind her a double-headed eagle. Sophia adored it.
No.
He ordered the portrait to be engraved in copper, so copies could be printed and sent to all the courts of Europe.
No way. No way. He got the art riz.
By now, Sophia was styling herself, by the grace of God, the great sovereign lady, the pious Tsarevna, the great Princess Sophia Alexeyevna, autocrat of the Great, the Little, and the White Russias. At state ceremonies and ambassadorial receptions.
Very interesting that he says White and Little Russias, referring to what's now Belarus and Ukraine. But he's saying Ukrainian, he's calling Ukrainian people Ukrainian, but then he says that White Russias and Little Russias. I know Ukraine is called Little Russia. That's interesting, actually, because I heard that the term Little Russia was merely Soviet propaganda. So, but here, if what he said is true, the term Little Russia was used way before the Soviet Union was around to describe what's now Ukraine, or as I like to say, Ukraine. I should go make some Ukraine videos. I don't know, I was thinking about making some Ukraine videos because of the whole peace deal situation going on, and everyone is so surprised that America betrayed Ukraine. But I'm I don't even know if I should go and do that. Maybe. I don't know. I guess for the sake of making the viewers know what is what, he's just using the term Ukraine. I don't know. I get it, but it's dude, I don't like hearing that term being used, because then again, these are English-speaking people, and you're gonna get the wrong idea, and then you're going to repeat this nonsense of, oh my gosh, dude, just say Ruthenian. Just say Ruthenian, because that's what Ukrainians call themselves back in this time period of time. Got me talking so much that freaking bit of space coming out of my mouth.
Longer felt the need to stand at a respectful distance behind the Tsar's throne. It was said her inspiration was the English Queen, Elizabeth I.
Based.
As soon as Tsar Ivan turned 18, Sophia arranged his marriage to the 20-year-old Praskovia Saltykova. Sophia was counting on the birth of a male heir to cement the Miloslavsky branch of the Romanov dynasty in power. The rival Narushkin branch had of course had the same idea. Peter was not quite 17 when his mother, the Dowager Tsaritsa Natalia, married him off to the 19-year-old Yevdokia Labukina. She was neither clever nor educated, but healthy. The outcome of these marriages would shape the future of the Romanov dynasty for generations to come. Ivan and Praskovia had 5 daughters, but only 3 survived infancy: Ekaterina, Anna, and Praskovia. Anna later became Empress of Russia. Ekaterina's daughter Anna Leopoldovna became regent for the young Ivan VI, but he was the last male of the Romanov Miloslavsky line. Peter and Yevdokia had 3 sons, but only the eldest, Alexei, lived. His son became Emperor Peter II, but he was the last male of the Romanov-Narushkin line. On May 30th, 1689, Tsar Peter came of age. Sophia was now supposed to step down as regent, but she had no intention of giving up power. Instead, Shaklovity began spreading false rumors amongst the Streltsy regiments. claiming that the Narushkins planned to assassinate Sophia and Tsar Ivan and send the Streltsy away to garrison remote fortresses. The Streltsy were unhappy, but would not risk open revolt. Then Shaklovity let it be known that those who joined his conspiracy would be paid. 2 rubles for each private, 10 for each officer, 100 for each colonel, plus the right to plunder the houses of their victims.
Of course.
Moscow was on a knife edge. On the night of August 7th, loyal Streltsy officers arrived at Peter's palace. They told him that Shaklovity was planning to use the Streltsy to murder Peter and his family. Peter reacted with horror and outrage. Before fleeing to safety, he wrote a letter to Ivan, his brother and joint ruler. Our sister, Princess Sophia, runs our country as she wills. Bandits like Shaklovity and his friends plan to murder us and our mothers. Now, brother Tsar, we shall rule our country on our own, since we are both men. Our sister has nothing more to do with it. It is shameful, Tsar, to be men, but to have someone else rule in our place.
Hey, that goes hard. That goes hard.
That evening, Princess Sophia received a report that Peter's palace at Preobrazhenskoye was empty. Tsar Peter, his mother, pregnant wife, and entire court had left for the monastery of Trinity St. Sergius. His so-called toy regiments, now composed of young men, followed him there, together with one loyal Streltsy regiment. Rumors began to fly around Moscow. Everyone was on edge. But quickly, the mood began to turn against Sophia. August 13th, Sophia sent an emissary to Peter, Boyar Ivan Troyekurov's. The young Tsar would not negotiate. August 16th, Boyar Peter Prazarovsky visited the monastery with the same result. August 20th, Sophia begged Patriarch Joachim to visit Peter. He went, but did not return. He stayed with Peter. Boyar's...
Oh my goodness, even he switched sides. Oh yeah, it's over. It's over. To the gulags. Well, you're not really gonna go to the gulag, but your head is gonna get cut.
Officials and even Streltsy began to flock to Peter's rival court. August 27th, Sophia left to negotiate with her brother in person. She realized that she shouldn't, that her humiliation would likely be in vain, but she could not simply sit and wait. 6 miles from the monastery, near the spot where she had had the Streltsy leader Kovansky executed 7 years before, she was met by Troyekurov, her own emissary from just 2 weeks ago. He handed her Peter's order to turn back. August 31st, Sophia returned to the Kremlin, where she gathered the Streltsy in the square. She told them that Peter's advisors sought to divide them by inventing plots against Peter's life, but that she was confident of their loyalty to her. But her speech made little impact. Only loyal Shaklovity remained by her side.
Oh, she literally, she fell for another man. She fell for another man. You didn't even know. Fell for another man. You didn't even know. And he's still loyal. Oh, that's like my worst fear. That's my worst fear. Because, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if I should get married, because a lot of these women will switch up on you so quick. Ooh. There's a story. Maybe I'll tell the story later, but this story relating to what I said is one of the reasons why, well, not the main reasons, but one of the beginning reasons why I would eventually come to become such a Russian supporter anyways. I don't know, maybe I'll tell that story in the future, but it is somewhat related to what I just said, but I won't tell it here. Nah, you guys aren't ready for that story yet. Not yet, but he still doesn't know that I cannot believe she fell for a dude who did good art paintings. What the heck? Oh my gosh, dude, may that type of love never find me, please, man. That's the thing is, I'm the type of person where when I have someone, I'm like, okay, cool, I have someone, because like I said, like I always say, yo, most of these women are not it, and it's already annoying enough trying to like build a relationship with someone. So it's like, once I have someone, that's it. And it's like, dude, the last person I did that to, literally ended up like cheating on me. I'm not trying to like get your sympathy or anything. Like, no, I'm not trying to get. I'm just telling you what happened. Like she knew that I was like so contempt that she like took advantage of that, and I'm like, oof. God, careful of that. And funny enough, actually, her parents were Russian too. So her parents were actually one of the reasons why I would eventually like Russia. Come to like Russia, respect Russian people. There's a lot of reasons why. I was thinking about making a whole video on this personally, like why? Because I was not like this. Like I was not like I used to be Russophobic as hell. A couple years back, I very much was. I was brainwashed by all this stupid Western propaganda and used to believe all the nonsense about Russia that I don't believe anymore, because I eventually came to realize that, yo, this is all BS. This is all not true. And there's a few key moments per se that led to this moment, very much so. So I don't know. Maybe one day you'll hear me talk about it, but not right now.
September 4th, foreign regiments under General Gordon went over to Peter's side. September 6th, Streltsy arrested Fyodor Shaklovity and took him to Peter for sentencing. September 7th, Vasily Golitsyn came to see Peter. The Tsar refused to meet him and sent him into exile. September 8th, the title of Tsarevna, royal princess, was officially stripped from Sophia. September 9th, Troyekurov informed Sophia of the Tsar's will. She was to enter the monastery of Novodevichi and remain there for the rest of her life. September 12th, Shaklovity was beheaded by the main road outside the Trinity Monastery. October 16th, the Tsar's court, boyars and army returned to Moscow, and Peter I took up the reins of government. His elder brother, Ivan V, remained joint ruler, taking part in ceremonies when his strength allowed. But his health continued to decline. Soon, Ivan found it difficult to walk and was almost completely blind. He died 7 years later, on February 8th, 1696, aged just 29.
Bro, why is it about the ill health? Is it because of inbreeding?
Princess Sophia lived under guard in a tower of the Novodevichi monastery. She received food from the Tsar's table, as well as an allowance of 2,600 rubles a year, the same as the other royal princesses. A small staff of servants lived with her, an old nanny, 2 clerks and 9 maids. For 9 years, Sophia lived quietly in the monastery, reflecting on her years of power and the fate of her 2 lovers. One
That's crazy, bro.
executed, the other exiled to the north.
Bro, that's crazy.
She also continued to intrigue, exchanging secret letters with her supporters. In June 1698, Peter was in Holland learning to build ships. But back home, poor treatment led 4,000 Streltsy to kill their officers and march on Moscow, intending to restore Sofia to the throne. They were met by government troops, the Preobrazhensky Regiment, the Semenovsky Regiment, the Lefortov Regiment, the Foreign Regiment under General Gordon, and the Nobles' Militia under General Shane. The Streltsy were defeated at New Jerusalem, 30 miles from Moscow, and reprisals began. General Shane conducted the initial investigation. He had 130 Streltsy hanged, 140 whipped and sent into exile, and 1,960 banished to remote regions. But in August, Peter returned to Moscow and renewed the investigation. He had another 2,000 Streltsy executed and 600 more flogged and branded. Streltsy corpses were hung from the walls of the Kremlin and Sofia's residence, the Novodovichi Monastery. Streltsy property was plundered, and even the 16 regiments that didn't take part in the revolt were disbanded.
Yeah, good on him to do that. Yeah.
Princess Sofia was forced to take the veil under the name of Susanna. Boyars close to her were interrogated and then banished to distant monasteries. Her allowance was slashed, her staff changed, and security tightened. The bodies of 3 Streltsy hung by the window of her cell for 5 months.
Oh, my goodness. So she watched them decompose and rot.
Once, she had struck terror at court, won the favor of any man she wanted, held the power to invoke and quell revolts, waged wars, and concluded brilliant peace treaties. She dreamed of becoming a real ruler, like the Byzantine princess Bulgaria, whose tale had captivated her as a child. She had defied all the odds to make her dream a reality, becoming the first Russian princess to escape her secluded existence, the first to live life and wield power. But in the end, her downfall was complete. For 7 years of rule, she spent 15 years in a monastery cell. She died in 1704, aged 46, and was buried in the cemetery of the Novodovichi Monastery. By the time of her death, great changes were sweeping over the country she had once ruled. Changes that would transform Russia forever.
Yeah, it's been a great
The
year.
history of the old Russian state was at an end. The history of a new Russian empire was beginning.
Excellent. Of course, I mean, it's Russian history. Of course it would be excellent. But if you made it all the way here, make sure you go check out my other reactions. If you have any reactions on Russia or anything like that, you just comment down below for me to do it. Eventually I will try and do it. Make sure you like the video so that more people can get recommended this video, alright? And if you're new and you like what I have to say, well, definitely go and subscribe. До свидания.